Games, board games. I might be talking about a game about hitting tasks people would do for different lengths of time, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing. And today I want to introduce another game that has basically no use except for being a thing to entertain. A game about setting tasks people would do for different lengths of time. That's its name. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time it is, wherever you are. 10 a.m. ish, UK time. Time for Busy Beats and Board Game Blether, episode 799. And I thought that today I would introduce you to one of my games. I thought I would tell you about a game about setting tasks people would do for different lengths of time. It's a game that was inspired by a song. It's a game that, yeah, embarrassingly, this is the first game I'm going to do a small print run that I've never actually played, but it reflects almost a seismic shift in how I'm making things. So I'd like to talk about that. Hello, Elaine. It is lovely to see you. The playtesting was lovely as always. Actually, let me get straight into that because I've already introduced today's topic. And how are you? I hope that you are well. Let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. Tomato juice, parts of a healthy diet. So yes, my going to playtest is always a good day for me. And I was hoping to play a whole bunch of the LDEC games. I played, six of them, six of the entries for the 22 LDEC design contest. That took 2/3 of the day. I did definitely use more than my fair share this week, where I played for all of them. And Ellie Dix, Paul Mansfield, they played all the top runners. They both agreed with my choice for number one. And so now, as of yesterday afternoon, I have decided the winner of the LDEC game design contest. I also posted a little note on Twitter to say, hey, how would you like to find out? Would you like to be told via text message, or would you prefer to find out via video? And then, lots of people started voting until I thought, I'm not going to delete this, but A, people don't know the full story. B, people are different. And so why don't I just ask the people who actually entered, say, hey, I'm going to do a live stream and I'm going to reveal the entry winners on November the 12th. I've put it into my live stream diary, so you can see it there. It's going, hopefully multiple people will tune in to find out the winners. I will be talking about the winner and the runner-ups, and I'm really, honestly, there's multiple good games, and I'm hoping that between now and then I will also be able to write some rules so that people who already have an LDEC, I don't know, Elaine, if you've got one, or if anyone else watching, if you've got one of the LDECs, then hopefully at least one of them will sound interesting to you. One of the design, like someone mentioned for one of the games, this isn't a game that you would buy an LDEC for, but if you have one, it's absolutely a game that I would want to play every so often. And that's the thing, it's not a flagship game. It's not a game that I can say, hey, this is a game that you can't play with anything else, like Wibble, or, was Grabble ever really strong flagship game? Maybe Couple is a really strong flagship game, and Dwindle is really, really good, but I mean, honestly, if I were to pick my top 5 games right now, for the L deck, I'm just going to say, let me actually pop over. Um, what would I choose? Excluding the games for the 2022 contest, which I don't want to reveal, I would probably pick, yeah, Wibble, Couple, Hand Build L, which is a really deep two-player thing, um, Categorical for sure, and Dwindle. Yeah, I would pick those ones. And when I think Couple is mine, Wibble's mine, and yeah, actually only two of them aren't mine. But like, still, that's a decent percentage, right? Like, I mean, 40% of my favorite games are not by me, and I'm really grateful to everyone for doing that stuff. Anyway, the other game that I played, which was someone else's design. Oh my gosh, what did I play? Oh yes, I played the social deduction game. I played the social deduction micro game, which was trying to solve the well, it was trying to do something that Kevin Davis tried to do with The Thing, which was a game based on the John Carpenter movie, playable using traditional playing cards. I tried to tweak that to make it work better, and I know a bunch of people that I played it with tried to tweak it to make it work better. And it's a really difficult design goal to say, okay, humans, you are going to be infected, and once you're infected, you can win as a creature. But once you've said that, how do you stop people from just some people saying, well, I think it's more likely that the creatures are going to win. So I'm just going to let myself be, you know, targeted by the creature. You've got to have people who are willing to do some level of role playing. And that is an incredibly group dependent thing. And I believe that any game that has this thing going on, yeah, it's a really tough design challenge to solve. But, we made a lot of headway, and the designer, got a lot of good feedback. We had so many new faces. It was lovely to see someone who came with a game that looked very reminiscent of Monopoly. I was concerned that they would get a lot of negative feedback and a dismissive attitude. I wasn't there at the game when it was being played, but I was overjoyed to see that they were saying, oh, this was really helpful. Thank you so much. We'll definitely be back. So I'm really happy that, sometimes it can be some gamers, I don't want to tarnish, gamers can, but like some gamers can be kind of gatekeepy, and you've got to understand that, yes, you can have, in the same way that you can have outside art, you can have outside art, game design wise, because if game design itself is an art form. Anyway, it was an absolutely delightful day, and thank you very much for asking. Other than that, honestly, I was hoping to get a few things done when I got back, but I had such low energy. I've not managed to get much done, but I'm going to try and get some stuff done this morning to catch up. And yeah, thank you very much, Elaine. That is lovely to read. By the way, as an aside, my battery seems to be going down inexorably, even though I'm plugged in. So I might have to, yeah, switch over to mobile phone or something. And sure, I will do a little wriggle and jiggle. Stretching time, stretching time, stretching, whether it's as yours or mine. Stretching time. Okay, just make sure to get up off your seats occasionally. So that's my recent achievements highlight. Brilliant thing, brilliant thing, brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? I'm going to say brilliant thing is music. I love music. I like listening to the melodies. I like listening to the bass, the treble, the, bits in between that could go on either side because they're around middle C. I like the, listening to the lyrics and being amused, or listening to their poetic nature. Sometimes music can make you think, and whether it rhymes or whether it's like, this is a really good album. It's Self-Esteem is the artist, and it was nominated for the Mercury Prize. I'm going to try and quickly find it. Prioritize Pleasure had one track which is almost like spoken word with a background of melody, and this mixture of spoken word but with a little bit of thoughtfulness about the rhythm of the speaking, and being mindful of how the melody behind the swelling, the transitions, everything can amplify and accentuate the emotions that and build up to a solid whole. Music is just brilliant. It can affect my emotions, it can change my emotions, it can change the way I'm feeling. So music is brilliant. And that leads me nicely to my topic of the day. And hooray, my laptop seems to be charging properly now that I've tried a different port. As always, feel free to comment, ask questions, from, like, follow. And I'm going to see if I can share the correct part of my screen. There we go. This is a spreadsheet. Each line is potentially one card. There's going to be 28 game cards. So firstly, let me explain what this game is. This game is called a game about setting tasks people would do for different lengths of time. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to set tasks that ideally everyone you're playing with would do for a different length of time. So hopefully the name's self-explanatory. There's two roles in the game. One is the task setter, one is the voter. And if you're a task setter, you'll have cards. I've not made up the cards at all. That's going to be printed and come to me hopefully in time for a Gamers Gaming Getaway. And this is going to be released in about 3 weeks. And yes, I'm super excited about it. And Elaine just wants to say, totally agree. Music is really brilliant. All types. Singing is brilliant too. Yes. Self-expression. Yes. I absolutely agree. 100%. And also, speaking of music, the first person to guess which song what inspired this game can get a prize. I don't know what the prize is. Maybe it's a copy of the game. That seems appropriate. So if you can guess, you'll probably guess at some points if you pay attention to the spreadsheets. Anyway, so how does it play? One person setting the scenario. So you might say, the scenario is, for all the money you want, give a piggyback ride to Bez, who is armed with guns, and it's all live streamed. And then other people answer, how long would you do this for? You've got 6 choices. So your choices are never, no, like you wouldn't do it at all. Seconds or minutes, like that's all you'd be willing to do it for. Hours or days, weeks or a few months, years and years, or indeed always forever. And you could also say, to avoid death, swear profusely at the ghost of a goat who will do anything you ask, but is a bit incompetent, and your face is reconstructed. Well, I mean, personally, I would do that always forever to avoid death. How often? And then for a tasty meal, how long would you stay at least 10 miles away from a slightly disgruntled wizard without any social filter, and someone is always poking you? Okay, so someone else is always poking me. And how long would I do that for? I mean, it depends on whether the wizard can teleport. And this is where other people are allowed to ask questions like, can the wizard teleport? And the scenario setter can at any point say, no, that's the end of questions. And I would probably say, well, I mean, I don't feel like I feel like for a tasty meal, I mean, if the wizard is just going around the country, like if they are just popping around and are sometimes in the UK and like sometimes in London, that would be a bit annoying. Like, yeah, so I need to plan my travel. I guess years and years. Yeah, I would be willing to do it for years and years, but it's always forever, you know. I mean, like if it's Oh, it's only a tasty meal, probably weeks or a few months. I'm going to say weeks or a few months. That's how long I would be willing to stay 10 miles away from a slightly disgruntled wizard, especially if they're disgruntled. They might be kind of chasing me. Um, and Elaine says, an incompetent goat? I'm not sure what that means. What are goats usually good at? I mean, they're good at climbing, they're good at ramming into things, they're good at eating things. Maybe this goat just, you know, isn't quite able to climb up stuff. Maybe this goat is, falling over. Maybe this goat is, you know, just trying to eat, but then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so full. I'm just not able to eat this. Maybe it's just too picky about its food. Maybe it's got intolerances to everything. I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad to have made you laugh. Anyway, so that is the game. That's the core of the activity. So the scenario, this is a game, I'm not quite sure yet what player count it's going to be for. I've got to really decide. Yeah, it plays definitely up to 7 because you've got 7 voting cards, and I'm going to say 4 is the minimum. That's what I'm saying right now. 4 to 7, with more playtesting, I would get a better idea. So in this game, one person's making the scenario, they lay out cards, so I might say, okay, you've got to eat nothing except the bio waste of a totally normal cat who has unbelievable blue eyes and you're constantly wilting away. And you are doing this all for the fun of it. No, I would do that never. No, I mean, why would I want to eat the bio waste of something? And yes, the game was inspired by a song. So yeah, like I say, if you are, feel free to guess which song, and I'm really keen to see how many people guess the song it is. So one person setting the scenario, everyone else secretly votes on how long they would do these things for, and you're trying to vote with the group. As a voter, you're almost partially voting for yourself because that's fun to do and it's easy to do, but you're also trying to go along with the majority. Everyone who votes gets 1 point for every other person who voted the same way. So if all three people of us, if it's a 4-player game, one scenario setter, and the 3 of us all votes one way, we'll all get 2 points because there's 2 other people voting the same way as us. Conversely, if one of us voted one way, that person would get 0 points, and the 2 people who voted the other way would get 1 point each. Now, conversely, the scenario setter gets 1 point per different vote, if that makes sense. So the scenario setter wants to keep it diverse, wants to confuse everyone, and wants as many different lengths of time as possible, but everyone else wants to be homogenous. Obviously, you're not allowed to say, this is how I'm voting. That's completely against the rules of the game, and yeah, you're allowed to ask follow-up questions if you're, but yeah. And no, it was not Once in a Lifetime by Talking Heads, but I can see what you're thinking with the, tight frame of time. But no, it was something, yeah, maybe if I scroll that, yeah, it might just be a strange timeless dream. And everything is now white, blue, and pale amber rose. And yeah, if you look at never know, seconds or minutes, hours or day, weeks or a few months, years and years, and always forever. That is as much of a clue as I'm giving you. So, what else did I want to say? Yeah, this also heralds the birth of a new way of me making games. So in the past, I've started off making games in a fairly normal way. I started working on In a Bind, now known as Yogi, and well, it wasn't even known as In a Bind back then, but I started working on this card game. People it wasn't great, but there was something there, and then I kept working on it, and within a couple of months, it was something that people were enjoying. And that dragon meat, people were like, "Yeah, this is really good. I would buy this." And so then I worked on it for like, basically years, and then eventually it was like, okay, taking it to Kickstarter, and then there was a long development process, and then getting it out there, spending months and months on the artwork, going through a lot of anxiety about that art, I'm not going to lie. But eventually it was out. People enjoyed it. And I sold a decent amount. Like, I mean, of the first edition, like I printed 3,000, I want to say. It's been a long time. I'm fairly sure it was 3,000. Like, it was 1,000 once, and then I sold out. And then I was like, okay, how many should I reprint? And then Leisure Games said, well, if you continue to promote it the way you're doing, you could easily, 2,000 is not unreasonable, because I was deciding between 1 and 2,000. And then, I basically sold that out by the end of the year, and just as well, because I got a licensing contract from Gigamic. And so, very happy with that. I'm very happy with how Gigamic have promoted the game, and that first version that I published, even now, like after I want to say 7 years later, and having demoed it at pretty much every convention I've been to, so I've played this game a lot of times and watched a lot of people play it. And so, of course, I'm going to get new ideas. But if I were to remake it right now, hypothetically, if Gigamic were to do hey, we're going to totally rebrand this and you've got the opportunity to change everything, I think, assuming I was doing a 54 card deck, I would probably, I wouldn't do the blank cards that I did back then. I would bring in some extra cards, and I would get rid of 2 cards from the original deck. Everything else I'm really happy with. Just 2 cards. And that hopefully speaks to the fact that I spent a long time working on it, and I really did develop it carefully. And hopefully it doesn't speak to anything like, oh, well, Bez never learns from her mistakes or whatever. And, I'm proud of it. But even then, even with the best will in the world, things can change. And whether it's 1 card or whether it was like Wibble, which a few hundred games later I realized, wait a minute, we shouldn't be resetting at 3 cards. We should be resetting on the 3rd card, not on the 4th card. And, it's a small thing. And Fable, it's like, oh my gosh, this part wasn't even necessary. It works without it. Games change. I want to be adaptable. I want to be flexible. I don't want to just be selling the same game over and over just because it's doing well. I want to ask Gigamic, hey, can I change this? And obviously, if they say no, then I'm going to respect that because they're the publisher. But I would like to be in a state where I am able to do future editions of things, and people kind of expect that. And so the other thing that I'm thinking is I've got a lot of ideas I'd like to get out there. And that's why my Bezzy Bargain Bags print 50 copies. The first edition Bezzy Bargain Bag is very much a borderline beta testing, and people can try it out at a convention. That's what I'm hoping people will do. I'm hoping that people will try it out, and if people fall in love with it and want to grab some copies for a $5, then brilliant. And that, there'll be a little note that says first edition limited to 50 copies, and hopefully there'll be one day, if one of these goes big, it'll be like, hey, I've got one of the first edition, it's limited to 50 copies. I mean, for all I know, maybe in 10 or I might be being egotistical, but I'd like to think that there'll be 1 person in the world in 100 years' time that cares about, oh, I've got this. That's quite cute. Oh, it's that thing. And the same way that I saw something from the late 1800s, and I just found it charming. It was this kind of apples to apples style questions mixed with random answers. and the juxtaposition and everything. And I like to believe that someone will care in the future. And so I'd like to get these things out there. But I can't spend years and years and years on every single thing. And the question is, at what point does it seem valuable? At what point do I feel like this is worth making? And it feels like fundamentally it's at the point where I feel like, yes, I am fairly sure that this is going to inspire joy. At the point where this is going to be something that people have fun with, something where people, yeah, it doesn't need to be perfect, especially for a game which isn't about the strategy. And that's the key thing. I mean, so here we have this game, and I think it's good. I mean, honestly, can I say for sure? No, I can't. I can never be sure. Would I be more sure if I played it like a few more, like a few times? Yes. And this is the first game I've ever printed without actually playing it. And that's like a messed up thing to say. That's, and how do I, how can I how can I imagine that it's worth people buying this? Like, that's the thing. I don't. I imagine that I want people to play it at a convention, try it, and then once they're like, yes, this is actually okay, then they buy it. And that's what I'm hoping for people to play it. And I'm not sure I even want to put it up on my shop, because then people might just be like, well, think it's good, yeah. And once but I, I've I've made like, I've finished tens of games at this point. Like, I've started so many stuff. I've started like hundreds of things, and I've pondered out the maths in my mind. I've analyzed it as best as I can, and what value is there in me actually trying it once? I would posit that there's actually zero value, because that once, is it statistically viable? If I were to pitch it to a publisher, if I were to sell it to you, I would not want you to buy it until, you've actually tried it. And so when I take it to a gamer's gaming getaway, it will be, this is being played, let alone sold for the first time. And, this sounds like probably egotistical again to say, well, no, I've not got anything going on under this, but I am quite hot. It sounds egotistical to say, well, I'm good enough that I can publish a game without working it out. But A, I'm not charging that much money. It's like a fiver. And B, I'm showing it to people at conventions and asking them to play it before I show it off to them. And once it's been played a few times, and like once it's been played probably after a gamer's gaming getaway, after Dragon Meet, maybe after a couple more conventions, I'll be like, yeah, this is clearly working, and either it will be sold out and I'll reprint it, or I'll put it up on my shop and people can buy it, because I'm now confident enough that I'm willing to sell it to people sight unseen. But I'm aware that I've got a reputation and I don't want to damage that reputation. So I want to make it clear that, yes, this is me going super experimental and just getting things out there, because not everything has to be this super polished, refined thing that ends up being bought for like 40 quid or more. Sometimes you can just, hey, try a thing. And I remember when I went to Walthamstow as a small market, I was showing so many prototypes, and then people are like, wow, can I buy this? And if I had had prototypes, they would have bought them. And I know it's not a big sample size, but it felt like if no one buys it, it's going to be less than £200. I can afford to swallow £200. As a business, that is absolutely worth the research and development costs. And if it never sells, then well, I'll be a bit sad. I will learn my lessons, but I will also have had people playing it. Actually, it's more than £200 because I'm also spending. I guess there's opportunity there. I'm spending money on someone helping me with the graphic design and pre-production. Elaine says that's a great way of thinking. Games are for people to enjoy. They don't have to be perfect. I don't think it's possible for a game to be perfect for everyone. Everyone is different. Yes, and like once it's out there, like I can then with that 50 copies keep maybe, I mean, frankly, if I give one to everyone who helps me at UK Games Expo because they presumably like the games, then that's like 10 copies right there, and then maybe another 5 copies for like one for, I want, let's be honest, I want 2, maybe 3 for myself, 1 for myself to play and 2 as a kind of souvenir so I don't run out, and maybe a couple for backup, like could be prizes, could be like freebies for people in the future. And so it's all about lots of content. And the question is, how was it best to make this game? Now, in order to playtest this, actually, I'm going to talk about the game a bit more, but I'm not going to talk about the song. I'm not going to name the song, but again, see if you can recognize the song. Feel free to keep guessing. So I was listening to this song one day. I listened to it on an album and I was like, yeah, that is a good song. I've heard it before, but that's a good song. So then I typed it up and then I was listening to it in Spotify. I went on these, I've done this like 3 times before, where I listened to all the versions of one song. And now I've got a playlist which is like all the versions of the song with the duplicates, because obviously there's some which are basically identical, but from different albums, you know, deleting them, and now I'm trying to make and I listened to this one song essentially probably for, I don't know, 20 hours or more, all put together. And then it starts to think like, I'm going, okay, yeah, that makes it, okay, that's nice. Huh, yeah. How would that tie into a thing? Oh, would you really do that? Okay. And I can't remember exactly how it happened, but this got me thinking about, yeah, a game where you're trying to work out how long people would do different things for. And the whole song, it's got like, it's a bit, I'm not going to say it's the most weird, like all songs are a bit weird if you look at them too closely. And so, like, the idea that came to my head was building scenarios, and some people try to do them for different amounts of time. I mapped out exactly how the scoring should work. Should it be the number of people that vote the exact same number of times, or should you be included in that? That's the one point I'm not sure. But other than that, like, it's simple enough that there's not a lot of knobbiness, if you know what I mean. There's not a lot of granularity. It's not like there's something to increase or decrease by 3 or 4 or 1 or 2, and then if I get the numbers way wrong, then there's always going to be one specific way to play. No, this is a game where it's about having a bunch of scenarios and then use one of these in column A, which is kind of like a verb, so it might be cosplay as, and then column B is people, like the objects of the word. So cosplay as a laser wielding shark, and that's like what you do. And then you're allowed to use 1 or 2 of the C's or D's. Like, they won't be called C or D on the thing, but you could say cosplay as a laser wielding shark who is covered with bees, who is actually made of sugar. So you could have 2 of the C's or 2 of the D's. You could say cosplay as a laser wielding shark, and you do it naked, and you can never sit down. I mean, if that's for fun, I would say never. No, I mean, I don't want to cosplay as someone naked. I mean, maybe in a very, I mean, I'm like struggling to think. I mean, like, so as I say, I would never do something. You know, I'm a contrarian enough that I want to disagree with myself. But no, I wouldn't do that. And yes, exactly. That's how It was like Mad Libs, and actually, it's this putting four vaguely random things together that you assemble these four things, and the bulk of the game design was making the content, and the bulk of the game development is going to be refining the content. And sure, I could spend, another year like working out what's funnier, but wouldn't it be, if this is a good enough game, wouldn't it be a lot more efficient to just take it to conventions and see what makes people laugh rather than taking it to a testing environment? I mean, frankly, testing it with real people who are thinking about just playing this game for fun and potentially even buying it gives me a lot more, it feels a lot more honest. Like if people are actually spending a fiver, even though a fiver isn't very much, if people are actually spending a fiver for something, it shows that it's got some quality. If people aren't spending that money, it shows that, at least for that person, it wasn't worth very much at all. And yeah, you don't have to ask people, oh, what did you think? You can just see, because people are there to play games. And, this is something I could see myself potentially even taking to a pub and playtesting with strangers, maybe. The way that I playtested the original In a Bind, which is now known as Yogi. I'm going to keep saying that because people occasionally ask me, hey, how do I get In a Bind? And I have to say, please go out and buy Yogi. I mean, Yogi is exactly the same thing, and it is an officially licensed thing. They've not ripped it off me. It is exactly the same game. It's not my artwork, but I changed one and a half of the cards for that version, and it is marginally better. Anyway, so why am I making this? I am making it because I like making games, because I like expressing myself, because people sometimes tell me that they enjoy my games, and that feels like an amazing source of validation. Honestly, like that's like one of the, I don't want to get too dark, but yeah, sometimes it gives me a reason to live. And so, that is, I mean, I know that as a human, I've obviously got other values, like hopefully as a friend or whatever, or as a, relative, but yeah, it's easy to doubt yourself in today's world. And so I've got a lot of self-doubt, and when I see people enjoying my games, and when I'm able to make something new, it's like, yeah, it's not just that I made something some time ago and people enjoyed it. I'm able to still keep making things that people enjoy. And honestly, if people don't enjoy it, I will still be okay with that, as long as, I've had a pretty, I can't, I mean, this is all hypothetical, but I feel like as long as most of the things that I published, people actually enjoyed, that's good enough for me. And of course, some people are going to hate all the things. That's totally okay. Like AJ LeBron, is not a fan of my stuff, Cat, just people who like more meaty games, people who don't like, the very essence of what I'm doing. But if you like, so who would enjoy it? I think that someone who enjoys a bit of silliness, like I think that Mad Libs vibe is really, good point. And Elaine says, I think it's a very human thing to want to find purpose in what you do. And yes, you absolutely have far more worth than the games you make. That's a lovely thing to say. Thank you very much. I mean, it really doesn't feel like it. And no, intellectually it's, but anyway. Yeah, I'm not going to dwell on that too much. Anyway, yeah. So, who would enjoy it? That's what I wanted to talk about. So, someone who enjoys that Mad Libs vibe, that, that, where, there. So, someone who enjoys that, who feels like they might be amused by random, slightly oddball scenarios, someone who enjoys learning what their friends think. Because the question is, would you want to cosplay as Johann Sebastian Bach just for fun? I mean, I know at least one person would. I mean, I would do it for at least some time. And so it would be for me, it's slightly interesting. Would my friends like to cosplay as Johann Sebastian Bach? I mean, how long would I do it just for fun? I would probably do it for hours and hours, yeah. I mean, like, especially if I've cosplayed, I wouldn't, probably not, what's the other option that I gave? Oh, it would be more than seconds or minutes. I think I'm going to say hours or days. Like, hours or days might be like not the it might be possible that these 6 options are not perfectly aligned. That there would it have to be nude? No, it's just you have to cosplay as Johann Sebastian Bach. I mean, how long would you want to do it for? I mean, I would definitely be up for it. It seems like a fun thing, especially if there's, I'm assuming it's like, I'm assuming like maybe it's just like I would happily cosplay as Johann Sebastian Bach at a music convention for a couple of days or at least a few hours. That's what I'm going with. Hours or days. How about you? I am curious. That's my question of the day. How long? I can't play the piano nor speak German, says Elaine. Well, I mean, cosplay, you don't have to actually do the things. I mean, when you cosplay as, some anime character who's amazing with the sword, you don't actually have to you just have to dress up as them. So I'm thinking like a flouncy white shirt, some white wig, and some like old, timey clothes, maybe pantaloons. I don't know what Johann Sebastian Bach wore. Like, I'd have to research. So, full persona. I was thinking like just cosplay, like the costume. So, yeah. Would you cosplay as Johann Sebastian Bach? That is my question of the day. And that is, like, if that sounds interesting to you, you'll probably enjoy the game. If that sounds like, what's the point? You already know you won't enjoy the game. So yeah, that's it. And Elaine says, yes to pantaloons. I would wear those. So, you know what we could do is we could have a Johann Sebastian Bach convention, like where we just listen to their music and all dress up as Johann Sebastian Bach. And yeah, I'm not sure what we could add. Maybe we could just talk about music and yeah. Nah, I'm only joking. But yeah. In all seriousness, what would it be called? BachCon? Yeah, BachCon, I guess. But anyway, yeah. So I think I answered the questions. I talked about where it's originated from. I talked about how it plays and why I want to make it, and I talked about who would enjoy it. So that is the game. That's my introduction. That's taken a little bit more time than I expected. And yeah, hope. So presumably that would be spelt back to the future like this and like that. So you're cosplaying as Johann Sebastian Bach in different time periods which were in the future of Bach. Yeah, it could be a mashup. That would be cool. Anyway, honestly, I'm not going to do the work of making this cosplay convention or whatever. But no, that's pretty much it. So if you've got any more questions about this game or anything, or about my design or why I want to make it, or when it's going to come out or anything, or Gamers Gaming Getaway, please ask. But otherwise, I'm going to ask you. Question of the day, question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. So my question of the day is, for a tasty meal, how long would you lick the ears of a hermit who lives far away, who is constantly lying in a deep cloud of heavenly scent? For a tasty meal. I feel like that should say for a very tasty meal. I mean, for a tasty meal, I mean, yeah, I'm going to change that actually to be for a very tasty meal. But yeah, for a very tasty meal, how long would you lick the ear of a hermit who is constantly lying in a deep cloud of heavenly scent? That's my question to you, everyone. I'm thinking I would do it for, I would do it for seconds or minutes. I would be willing to do that. I mean, if they live far away, you need to travel to them. That's the thing, like, you need to travel to them, yeah. And Elaine says, this game sounds like lots of fun. I still have no idea what the song is. I'm going to keep it secret until after the end of the release convention, because I've also said to people at the convention, if anyone during the convention guesses, then I will give them a free copy. So I don't want them to just watch this show and then work out. So yes, you've got to travel over. Let's assume that they live somewhere that you'd have to like make us. They live 100 miles away. They live a good distance away. Yeah. I mean, if the hermit is okay with the ears being licked, I mean, I don't want to lick the ears. I mean, I'm tempted to choose between never know and seconds or a few minutes. Because like at the end of all of that, the meal would have to be really tasty for it to be worth it. Otherwise, it just feels like I've gone on this quest, but to lick someone's ears, and are they even willing to have their ears licked? That's the question. Is it the tasty meal one that they've prepared, and that's how I'd pay for it? I'd be okay with that. Yeah, that's a nice scenario. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's say the hermit is basically making very tasty meals, and in order to have one of the tasty meals, you have to lick their ears for different lengths of time. So how long are you willing to lick their ears for? And I'm going to say for this is now questioning the cleanliness of their ears, but like I wouldn't get in there thoroughly. I would probably like do a light lick. Yeah, this is getting really disgusting. But yeah, I'm going to say seconds. I'm curious about your answer. Anyway, for now, over to you, Walter. Up to you. Can share button if you want to. Yeah, I need to really prepare for tomorrow's episode 800. Someone asked me, like, in a private message today what I was looking forward to, because I asked them and they told me, and then I replied to them on a voice message. And I realized that everything has become embroiled in so much stress and feeling of, I need to do this and I need to do that. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to Nuremberg. But the thing about Nuremberg is I need to make games in advance for it. I need to get things done. And I'm looking forward to being there. I'm looking forward to it being done. But I'm not really enjoying the process as much as I used to, is the truth. Like for this game, I'm looking forward to it being done. I'm looking forward to being at, I am looking forward to being at the Gamers Gaming Getaway, but there's still the stress of, will it go well enough? Will it go, like, be something that feels like a disappointment after it's finished? And, you know, if you have too much pressure, then obviously that's not great. And sometimes the reason why I don't market as much as I do is because I don't want to bother people. Sometimes the reason why I don't want to market as much as I do is because it's kind of, well, it's done okay. And I feel like one day, hopefully within a couple of years, I will have a fulfillment and everything more sorted out. But while I'm like sending out stuff myself. Honestly, the joy of posting stuff, I never enjoyed posting stuff. I don't know why you say the joy of posting stuff is gone. Like, any joy that there was in posting stuff has continued to evaporate, and any excitement of hooray, I'm seeing all these, like, back in the day, I would like write the names, and every name that I wrote on a letter would be like, hooray, someone else is, getting my game, and that would be a real source of excitement. But now it's like I'm blasé, and that's not great. And yeah, it is kind of sad, and needing to try, yeah, hopefully I can maybe find joy in smaller things. Like this morning, I managed to get outside, just going outside, just briefly, wandering around, literally in a small circle. I mean, a block in America is quite a large area, but in London it's relatively small. And just wandering around, doing a quick voice message to someone, coming back up. I'm glad to have gotten outside. I smile when I go and see the dogs. And yeah, it's the truth is, like, I love dancing, but that's filled with a lot of anxiety and nervousness because of transphobic people. And I love going to play games, but at a certain point, once it becomes work, there's a feeling of, well, I need to do at least this amount of, it needs to be at least this level of quality. And then with that, it gets into stress. And yeah, I'm sorry that I'm feeling down, and like I hope that this isn't bringing anyone else down. But yeah, anyway, episode 800, I need to prepare for it, and I hope the actual thing gives me some joy. But yeah, I don't know. And Elaine, thank you so much. That's lovely to hear. But yeah, Elaine says, I'm so sorry. You always inspire me to find joy in small things, like brilliant things. I'm sorry you're struggling with it yourself. I mean, I want to give a shout out. I can't even remember the name of the podcast, but there is a podcast where it was all about telling stories. So they would talk about TV shows and books and films, and they would talk about the art of storytelling, which I'm not currently subscribed, but I listened to a good few episodes and it was really nice. And one thing that they did, which I quite liked, was at the start they would do the cool thing of the episode, and they would say, hey, here's something cool that I just watched, or here's something cool that I just played, or here's a tasty, like, it would normally be quite specific things. And I do like the idea of like that. And so when I started doing my own sorts of regular stuff, I wanted to have like a brilliant thing. And like earlier on, I had like the bee of the day, and like it was an internet radio show, like it was the book of the day, and the balloon of the day, and the box of the day, and the bed of, I think it was of the week, and the bed of the week, and the bacterium of the week, and yeah, it got more and more tenuous, which was kind of funny in and of itself. But the bit that I really enjoyed doing was the brilliant things, and actually changing the brilliant things from a less specific thing to more generic thing. I think it's really good for me as well. I mean, hopefully it helps someone else as well, and I'm really glad that it helps you, Elaine. But for me, I think that the other person I found inspiration from was Sarah Reed. So Sarah Reed and Will Reed are board game designers, and Sarah Reed also does some podcasting and some writing. And occasionally I saw these messages, which was like, hey, here's some minor achievements that I did today, and I'm writing this for my own mental health. What were some of your achievements? And so that's why when at the start I talk about achievements, highlights, and events. I mean, it doesn't just have to be the good stuff. I do sometimes talk about, yeah, this is something that happened and I want to talk about it. But when I'm like feeling really, really low, and it stops me getting, into, let's say it stops me getting dangerously low, is sometimes I try and take a few minutes to think, well, here's 5 things that I enjoyed at least somewhat, and here's 5 things that I achieved at least somewhat. And it doesn't need to be a big thing. Like, it can be literally yesterday I cycled to I got out the house, I put out my recycling, I ran some play tests, I kind of assistant organized, like Kelly Dix was doing the bulk of the organizing. And what else? Yeah, I streamed. I mean, streaming, like, I do it every day, but it is still an achievement to do it. And that's 5 things. And things that I enjoyed. I enjoyed being with people. I enjoyed chatting with Paul afterwards, and we were talking about maybe playing some published games, in future weeks, because we're there anyway from 10 till 5. And, it will make it into a very long day, but maybe some of us would enjoy sticking around for a couple of extra hours to play some more games. Um, that was a nice kind of chat. I really enjoyed, Ellie Dix gave me a small gift, which was an absolute delight. Jack showed me some art that are doing for me, like some graphic design. Yeah, it is art. And yeah, what else? Actually, I'm going to say right now, seeing, I know it's weird to talk about material positions, but yeah, seeing a stack of games and thinking, you know what, this book here, I've still got 2/3 of an Usagi Yojimbo book to read. That gives me a little bit of joy. So, like, recounting these things, I mean, sometimes I don't even get as much of a stat. Some days it's like just I got out of bed and I drank some water, and like some days, like, getting showered is an achievement, and that's okay. Do you in your house just for yourself? I'm not sure what you mean. Do I in my house just for myself? Sorry, that's out of context. And please don't apologize for having a hard time. I appreciate you trusting us enough to share. Thank you very much. Um, but yeah, if you could clarify what you mean, do you in your house just for yourself? And sorry about, like, the whole nature of streaming, because I'm talking real time and then I see the message, but even if I saw it as soon as you'd finished writing it, it's still a few seconds late. Did you ever listen to the boring talks on BBC Radio Player? They had someone on that had a big interest in something unusual like cornflakes or whatever. I think they stopped the series, but I always enjoyed that. No, I hadn't seen that. That is cool. Um, is that on a podcast? Yeah. I'm going to actually type it in right now, even though that's really unprofessional of me. But was never a professional podcast, was it? Boring talks. We're very good at forgetting our achievements or underrating them. Sometimes we feel that we need to be changing the world to make a difference, but the small things always add up. Yes, 100%. I was chatting to someone, and I said, and they were like feeling incredibly down for more. I mean, maybe similar to how I'm feeling generally when I'm not around people right now. Because again, when I'm talking to people, oh, do you dance in your house just for yourself? Okay. Um, hmm. Very rarely. I did do a short stream in a private Discord where it was like, hey, I want to do this thing. But I mean, for me, yeah, I should make more space. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to ask Kerry after this week. Like, I'm going to make a commitment to get rid of at least Yeah, I'm going to make a commitment right now. I will get rid of at least 3 times this much board games. This box is a relatively big box, and I've got 1, 2, 3 that have not properly been opened, and I've got also some boxes which are stock and envelopes and games that I want to sell. Put on a song that gives you joy and jump around the living room type thing, not anything for anyone else, just for you. I totally get that. Yeah, I don't do it very often, and I wouldn't properly jump because there are people living literally underneath me, and London, while it's been well constructed, I think that literally jumping would not be appropriate here in this flat. I'm not on the ground floor, and honestly, I'm kind of grateful to no longer live on the ground floor because it means that I don't have to worry about people, privacy. I can just be looking out and know that no one can see in. Well, unless they crane, look up. But yeah, like I have done a little bit of, practicing and occasionally doing stuff. But yeah, I mean, for me, I do enjoy the partner dancing. I enjoy the kind of interaction between the people, and that's what I really enjoy. But anyway, I should skedaddle. It has been more than an hour. And to recap and wrap up before we finish up. To recap and wrap up, yesterday I decided the winner of the LDEC design contest, and the winners will be announced, and runners-up will be made public and made available to play on the 12th of November in exactly 2 weeks. I had a lovely time at playtest, as I always do, and I felt good about managing to get there. What else? I talked about my new game. A game about setting tasks people would do for different lengths of time. And so in this game, some people are setting you take it in turns to set a task. You try to confuse everyone. You get a point for every different length of time that people would do it for, but everyone else gets a point for everyone who votes the same as them. So if everyone said they would do it always forever, then they all score maximum points, and the scenario setter only gets 1 point. Whereas if you manage to split the votes between 3 different things, then if that's like 2 people voting for each thing, then potentially they might get 1 point each, and scenario setter gets 3 points. So it's all about trying to be confusing and trying to set stuff that people would do for different amounts of time. Wait a minute, did that? Whoops, there we go, went black. The game sounds like fun, but I think I'd have too many clarification questions and annoy everyone. I mean, I think part of it is just guessing. I might, like, this is the thing, like, honestly, there will be small tweaks in the rules where you say, like, well, how much clarification rules should be allowed? Should you be allowed clarification rules at all? Like, maybe it should just be, this is what I'm setting, and everyone else has to decide, or maybe everyone else is allowed 1 question. Maybe that makes sense. Like, everyone's allowed 1 question, or maybe everyone is allowed to ask the player to their right 1 question. So not how long would you do this for, but yeah, so like, why is the chicken angry? Did I make it angry? How is it expressing this anger? Like, maybe you're allowed to ask the player to your right rather than, so the scenario setter sets the scenario, and then all the other players kind of communally agree. That would be interesting. So like, maybe you ask the player to your right the questions rather than the scenario setter. So no asking how long they would do it for, but you can ask something like a clarification of the scenario. So you might say, "Did I make it angry?" And the person says, "No, it's just innately angry. The angry chicken is constantly angry for no good reason. It's just angry at life and everything." And that's the thing. Now, someone to your left asks you a question. So they might say, is the angry chicken something that likes to cross roads? And then you would have to answer. And I don't know this hypothetical scenario. What do you think? Would you know? Oh yeah, there is the angry chicken. Now, like, I was curious now if I had an angry chicken because I was going to say, oh, that sounds like a good thing to have. But yeah, does it cross a lot of roads? And you would decide whether it does or not. We decided that it's, well, I think it's okay for me as long as I'm clear with people to make games that are basically glorified extended playtesting and say, yes, it's for a low price and this is what allows me to hopefully eventually get those games made. Because, yeah, and hopefully it's good enough that there'll be some people who enjoy it anyway. We talked about inspiration through songs. We talked, although I didn't reveal the exact song. We talked about nothing is going to be for everyone. We talked about remembering that things are brilliant. We talked about music being brilliant. We talked about remembering your own achievements. And yeah, we talked about licking an ear in exchange for a meal that has been prepared by a hermit, which sounds oh well. Anyway, and I talked about the LDEC contest. Check out stuffbybez.com/streams after episode 800, which I hope will be a good episode tomorrow. Oh, I thought I had some. No, it turns out that I don't have any specific stuff planned for most of next week. I do have Alan Paul on. We will probably be talking about another mechanism. And on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I'll probably just talk about my Kickstarter games. I'll probably spend like one episode talking about each of the 3 other games that I've not done. One about a game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after makes noises. One about a game about quickly grabbing creatures. No, a game about quickly matching words to words, but words to pictures, but never words to words or pictures to pictures. I'm getting the names of my own games confused now. And one about a game about counting cats, shapes, and colors that keeps getting trickier. So yeah, I'll be at Nottingham Proto Spiel next week. Please, yeah, then there's like stuff in the future. If you want to come on, then if you're interested in joining me as a guest, it would be lovely to have you. So please do look at that calendar and see, okay, where is there a gap? Or where is there just a number and nothing else? And yeah, I'm probably not going to do stuff where I super stress about it I'm probably just going to do it super chill for the next, after episode 800. Thank you so much. And yeah, maybe keep my birthday, also my birthday completely incidentally is the 13th of August. So I would suggest putting 11th, 12th, and 13th of August in your diary for 2023. Just for 2023 if you have nothing else to do. But lots of love. Thank you very much. And as always, the thing I have left to do is say, oh yeah, Stuff by Bez, check me out there. Share, spread the word. Thank you so much for the lovely chat. It was an absolute delight. And let's finish up like that. And bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, bye, Bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye. Bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye. Bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone. And yes, bye bye. Have a lovely day, you as well.